Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire today. We are joined by Pete Aguilar. He is a member of the United States Congress, and he represents the areas where so many Americans lost their lives. He represents significant portions of San Bernardino County. And sir, I am so sorry for your district's loss, for our loss. And I start with, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I appreciate it, Brad. Always good to be back with you. But this isn't about me. This is about, the victims who died and those survivors, 21 survivors who are still, getting over this incident, and then the hundreds of first responders who came out. Some of them are going to need to talk to people, so this is going to weigh on San Bernardino County for some time.
But let me ask you, of course it's not about you, and that's very selfless, but you're the member of Congress representing the area that was directly impacted. When you talk about folks will want to lean on others, they may want to lean on you. Yeah. Who's trained for this? I mean, you didn't train to be the congressman for the district that suffered the worst terrorist attack since 9/11.
No, you don't. You just don't sign up for that. Right. And to your point, it's San Bernardino joins a list of Aurora, Colorado's and new towns, and I mean this is tough. And the only thing that I can do, the only thing I know how to do, is to just listen to people and to try to adequately, thank those first responders who showed up. I mean, really, that's I sat with the few survivors who had gunshot wounds.
You did.
And
you went to the hospital.
I did. I went to the hospitals.
And how was that for you, for them? It's got to be interesting. Do you even go to the hospital? Do they want you there? Some people may feel so great that their member of Congress came to visit. Others may want privacy. So it's a tough line.
Well, we honor everybody's decision. Sure. We made the offer, and then two had asked for me to come in and wanted to talk about the incident, the event. We talked on a couple other range of issues as well, and common through both of those, who I sat with was, they wanted me to adequately thank public safety officers who came, who helped them, who comforted them, who got them to the hospital, and they were still, going through their issues.
And we talk about the first responders. We've seen that cell phone video, and we've heard anecdotally how these officers not only acted heroically in terms of the strategy to defuse the situation, but the empathy that they were able to convey to these folks that were petrified. I mean, I heard a story about an 8-year-old boy that was there that was literally, he could barely function.
He was shaking like a leaf.
Right.
And that's what the officer said. Right. And so, the work that they did to reassure people, to comfort them, to make sure that they adequately found the exits, that they took them through so they could be treated in a triage area and then moved to different facilities. I'll tell you what, and it was a coordinated effort. I mean, it was San Bernardino Police and Fire, the sheriffs, the City of Redlands, County, Fontana, Colton, Rialto. Right. It worked exactly how you want law enforcement to respond.
You're a resident of Redlands. You were mayor of Redlands. We know that the perpetrators lived in Redlands, not far from where you live. The two sites in your district.
Yeah.
Where do you go with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's not. I mean, everybody says it when you see these horrific incidents, on the news.
The street
you always think, right. You always think it's not going to happen in your community. And San Bernardino, it's very personal for me. I grew up there. I was raised there. A fourth generation resident of San Bernardino.
The city of.
Right. And then Redlands, where I've been a resident for 15 years. I mean, it's tough.
We think about our neighbors in Redlands and San Bernardino, and we want to be charitable to our neighbors, but there's a lot of fear right now about our neighbors. And I'm wondering how you, as a leader, as a member of Congress, deal with those that are afraid of the other. Someone who may appear to be of the Islamic faith or may be of the Islamic faith. We know there's a lot of rhetoric that's getting very heated right now about Muslims may be American, may not be American.
And it's so tough because there are Muslim Americans who live in San Bernardino County who are my friends and my neighbors, and their heart is just aching over this tragedy before we found out the names of the individuals who were the suspects. So they stand lockstep with us. I've been to interfaith gatherings in Rancho Cucamonga, Redlands, and San Bernardino, just expressing that level of support. And the Muslim community has stepped up. They're raising money into the Arrowhead United Way, as am I, to help alleviate some of the strain that the victims and their families are going to be going through. The San Bernardino County is also dedicating folks' efforts through that venue. So it's been tough, but we can only move forward if we do it together.
So, but as we move forward, at some levels, we get mixed messages, and not necessarily conflicting messages, but the president will want us to be vigilant. If you see something, report it. I mean, that will tend to mean that you're profiling.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, what it should mean is just be aware of your surroundings. In a post 9/11 world, that's all law enforcement has asked. Not for individuals to profile, but if you see something out of the ordinary, you need to say something. Specifically related to this event, law enforcement has asked folks to call 1-800-CALL-FBI if you know something or if you have seen something suspicious in the past. So, there's plenty of investigation left to do. But to your point, now is not the time to profile or to judge people based on their looks, whether they have a beard or not. There are Muslim Americans who are great members of our society and whose heart continues to ache over these tragic events.
In the wake of this event, the New York Times, for the first time since 1920, put an editorial on their front page focused on gun violence and made a clear plea for increased gun control measures, whatever that may mean. I know we are so close to the incident, so it's almost impolitic to bring up the topic, but it's hard not to. The issue of the Second Amendment is so charged and so heated. Where do you go with this question?
It's incredibly charged, but I think that there's some common ground and some common sense measures that we can do. I've mentioned this. Time Magazine asked me to write an op-ed, and I did, and I talked about this. Coincidentally, when I found out about this news in my community, I had just walked off the floor of the House of Representatives, and I had voted to start debate, and the measure was defeated, to start debate on whether those on the terror fly list, the no-fly list, could purchase handguns. And so, those types of common sense measures, increasing background checks and making sure those folks don't have weapons, seems like common sense to me.
Yet, as common as they may seem, we don't see progress on it.
Well, that means the American public has to weigh in, and they have to let their elected officials know. I mean, I understand that this is, on the eve of political season, kicking off early next year. But still, I mean, there's work that we can do. I understand if it's going to be too tough to do some other things. But we should all at least agree that background checks need to be an important part for every handgun purchase. Those on the terror fly list aren't allowed to purchase a weapon, and maybe allow the Centers for Disease Control to do research into gun violence, which currently has been prohibited.
I understand that your office has put together a website to raise money. Is that right?
Yeah, we've lent our support into the efforts that the United Way and San Bernardino County are working through. Arrowhead United Way has a link there, and I'm going to use whatever influence I can personally to communicate to folks and to let them know that that's where my heart is and where my dollars are going.
Our hearts are broken for you, for your city, for your region, but I know that we will prevail and there will be a better day before us. I thank you for joining us, and we just send our prayers to you and the entire district. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you so much for joining us on Charter Local Edition.